Welcome back to another FPL Best Wildcard Team, this time out of Double Gameweek 35. A lot of you will be using the chip this week, including myself, and I'll be showing you my current draft and what I believe to be the best wildcard team. I'll expand on this in future videos and podcasts like the team selection and during the deadline stream, so be sure to tune in for those pieces of content by subscribing to the channel and smashing the like button. Let's get this to over 200 likes overall, and check out all the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, FPL Challenge, Drafthound, as well as Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on those podcasts as well. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. If you are looking to cover that Tottenham defence, there's one of two ways to go about it. The first one is going for Vicario, and the second is going for Pedro Porro in the backline if he's fit for the North London derby, which is probably going to happen, but it still hasn't been confirmed just yet. Vicario will make plenty of saves. Will he keep clean sheets? I see maybe 1 or 2 by the end of the season against Burnley at home and Sheffield United away. But in all the other fixtures against Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Liverpool away and Man City at home, you'd probably expect Spurs to concede in all of those games, but you never know what can happen. And Vicario has been one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League this season. Not so much in terms of FPL points due to the lack of clean sheets, but I would still recommend considering Vicario, although a lot of you will be going in the direction of Edison, who is someone else to consider in terms of goalkeepers priced at over 5 million. But the second goalkeeper I'm going for doubles in Gameweek 37, and he also has made a lot of saves this season. A turbulent first campaign for Manchester United, and that's going to be Onana, who was terrible in the Champions League, but he has been quite solid in the Premier League. He also made a crucial save in the penalty shootout against Coventry City, and I do like Onana despite the fact that Man United concede so many chances and goals, because he can make saves and he also can get bonus points in the process. Some of the games coming up also quite good for Man United, especially Burnley at home in Gameweek 35, and then you have a real dilemma on your hands if you go for these two goalkeepers. Who do you start in 35? Vicario for the saves and the double game week, or do you go for Onana with a better chance of keeping a clean sheet against Burnley? But in terms of other goalkeepers to consider, I still like David Raya despite facing Man United away in Gameweek 37 when you might want a bench boost in that double game week. I also like Edison to cover that Man City defence. You might have a lot of rotation in terms of defenders, and that's where Edison can be the best solution to your Man City problem if you want that defensive coverage with their great fixtures. I also like a few other goalkeepers like Petrovic with the doubles, but Robert Sanchez is always knocking on the door. You can't be fully sure about that pick sticking the landing, but I will discuss some alternatives later on using FPL.team, and of course throughout this video and podcast in each position I'll talk about some other options you can consider, whether you're bench boosting or not in Double Gameweek 37. But if you are looking to use the bench boost in that double game week, I'd consider Vicario and Onana as your two goalkeepers. Many FPL managers are moving away from the Arsenal defenders, and I can understand that. I mentioned earlier in the reaction stream that I only see Arsenal keeping 2 clean sheets from now until the end of the season, which includes that Chelsea fixture in Double Gameweek 34. I've currently gone for Gabriel due to budget, but you can go for White or Saliba, and I don't mind going for 2 Arsenal defenders there, or Raya in goal, as well as one of those defenders I just mentioned. And if you aren't using the bench boost in Gameweek 37, that's something you could consider, retaining 2 Arsenal defenders or David Raya in goal to really hone in on the best defence in the Premier League this season. One more clean sheet will see David Raya secure the Golden Glove, and I think those home fixtures are Arsenal's best chance of achieving that, mainly against Everton or Bournemouth. And if I had to pick one fixture where I think Arsenal could keep a clean sheet, it's probably Everton, but football is completely unpredictable, and if Everton are still fighting for survival by Gameweek 38, that could be a very crucial game and also a very cagey one at that. I've gone for Gabriel mainly for budget. If you have the extra funds, I would consider Ben White or Saliba instead, but there's really not much to separate the 3 of them. Now, he's currently flagged, or he's not flagged in FPL should I say, but he has been flagged in the press conference as a doubt for the Arsenal game, and going forwards this could be an issue that sees him ruled out of Gameweek 35. But I'm still going for Malo Gusto. Let's see if he's in the squad against Arsenal or not, but he's currently nursing an issue. The same goes for Ben Chilwell, and of course on top of that we've got Cole Palmer, who's currently ill, and he's a major doubt to start the game against Arsenal too. But Gusto for me, if he's fit for Double Gameweek 35, is by far the best way to cover that Chelsea defence, and it could lead to some problems, especially for those that are tight on budget already. You might have to go for Petrovic in goal to cover that Chelsea defence, and then you have to go for a more expensive option potentially than Gusto, which isn't ideal, and it might result in some unfavourable picks for Double Gameweek 37, and one replacement for him could be Van Hecke, but I don't back Brighton to keep clean sheets in either game of Gameweek 37, and also in the other fixtures really, because Brighton have been up and down all season, very inconsistent, but Van Hecke could be a decent replacement for Gusto due to the sheer number of games at Brighton's disposal. The third defender is Diogo Dalot, who doubles in 37, and that's a reoccurring theme throughout most of this squad, and he also has good fixtures in Gameweek 35, and we'll see how he does against Sheffield United in Double Gameweek 34. But the only issue I have with this defensive line so far is doubling up on that United defence with Dalot and Onana, but they've got bonus points potential. Dalot can get the odd assist, and I think these two can have that one game where they both deliver a massive haul, maybe 9+ points, especially in Diogo Dalot's case. But I do recognise that doubling up on this defence could be the biggest issue throughout this entire wildcard team. The fourth defender is Fabian Schär. I definitely go for a Newcastle defender or Dubravka in goal, but the reason why I haven't gone for Martin Dubravka, and that would have been very useful in terms of budget, is because Nick Pope could be back very soon, maybe as soon as Gameweek 35 or 36, and that rules out Dubravka as a genuine contender for that bench boost in Double Gameweek 37. But if Nick Pope suffers a setback, I definitely consider Dubravka in goal, and then you could replace Fabian Schär with a Pedro Porro, who currently doesn't make the cut, but he was in one of my previous wildcard drafts as soon as Gameweek 35 was available in terms of setting that Gameweek up. But the final defender is Gvardiol, and he could be a rotation risk with Nathan Ake returning from his injury, and Man City have a fully fit squad with the exception of Erling Haaland at this point of the Gameweek, and this video and podcast is recorded on the Tuesday. Gvardiol is currently my pick here, but it might be safer to go for Ruben Dias amongst Man City defenders, and Ederson is even safer still in the goalkeeper position. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I think the biggest issues are Gvardiol being a rotation risk and doubling up on that Man United defence, which has been awful all season. Foden is by far the best Man City asset right now, and I know you can go for two Man City midfielders with Kevin De Bruyne, but I'd still rather just go for Phil Foden, and if you want that second Man City attacker, Erling Haaland, as I'll discuss very soon, is the one to go for. But De Bruyne could start the vast majority of games from now until the end of the season, but I still see him being benched in one, possibly two matches in the run-in, whilst Foden will start every single game, in my opinion. Of course, you always get this surprise, and if Arsenal and or Liverpool slip up, that could afford City the possibility to rotate in certain key positions, especially out of that FA Cup final against Manchester United. The second midfielder I'm picking is Cole Palmer, a very simple one. He might become flagged very soon, and if he misses out against Arsenal, that puts some doubts on the captaincy for Double Gameweek 35. But I'd still go for Cole Palmer, as he's a great option for the last 3 gameweeks of the season, and it's only an illness, so he could miss out the Arsenal game, but I would expect him to be in that squad against Aston Villa and Tottenham for Double Gameweek 35. The third midfielder is Bruno Fernandes. I haven't recommended Man United players in such a long time, and now I've got 3 of them, and that could be overboard. Maybe 2 is the sweet spot, and I do recognise that. But Bruno Fernandes is currently the best Man United asset. He's in great form. He created 9 chances in the FA Cup semi-final against Coventry City. He scored and assisted in that game and had 5 shots overall, including a few blocked ones, but still, Bruno Fernandes has been very lively recently, and his form has been quite similar to what he showed when he first joined Man United and was one of the best FPL assets in the game. I'm also going for a budget option in Anthony Gordon, and going for a double up in the Newcastle attack is definitely viable. I'd rather do that than double up on their defence, but of course everyone can play it their way, and with some of the fixtures coming up for Newcastle, like Sheffield United and Burnley, I think you could make a case for doubling up on their defence, but I'm going for the double up in the attack, and Anthony Gordon is impeccable in home matches. He's got the best record of any player in the Premier League in terms of goals and assists at home. It's a different story on their travels, and Newcastle can sometimes be very poor away from home, and the same applies to Anthony Gordon, which could help you with some of your benching dilemmas. Whenever Gordon's away from home, you bench him. When he has the double, of course, you can bench boost him regardless. You definitely want to start him and get his points there, and for Gameweek 35 against Sheffield United at home, you definitely start Anthony Gordon, and the same goes for any home game that Newcastle have from now until the end of the season. And to wrap up this midfield, I'm going for Heung-min Son. I think he's by far the best Tottenham asset, and you can kind of see a pattern here. Palmer's by far the best Chelsea asset. I'd say Foden for Man City, Fernandes for Man United, and also Heung-min Son for Tottenham Hotspur. He has been very consistent this season. Of course, you could argue that recently Spurs have faded a little bit, but they can step up in some of these bigger games. They're yet to play the top 3 clubs in the country, so they have a massive say in the title race. Arsenal at home next, and Tottenham have rested for 15 days for that North London derby, whilst Arsenal would have played 4 games in that time frame. So there is an advantage in terms of recovery, but they also lack that match sharpness and momentum. They just lost 4-0 to Newcastle, and that could also serve as a motivator, and that North London derby needs no introduction. They don't need any other reason to get up for that match, and Spurs can still finish 4th, although Aston Villa are getting results now on a consistent basis. So Son still has a lot to play for, and I definitely go for him. I know some of you might also ask, what about Brennan Johnson or James Maddison, even Richarlison? And you can double up on the Spurs midfield. If I had to replace one of these midfielders, it's probably going to be Bruno Fernandes, and if not, I'd then look at Anthony Gordon if you have the funds. But I think Son is enough already in terms of Spurs coverage, and you don't even need a triple up, because Arsenal at home and Chelsea away isn't a great double. And as I mentioned plenty of times before in previous live streams, videos and podcasts, the best time to triple up on Spurs is for Double Gameweek 37 and 38, when they've got Burnley at home and Sheffield United away for 2 of the last 3 matches in the Premier League season. Are you okay? Is everything fine at home? Are you clinically sane? These are some of the questions I imagine that you're asking me, because I'm going for Nicholas Jackson in this best wildcard team. And look, if he does get that yellow card against Arsenal, that will immediately rule him out of this wildcard squad, and you can just replace him with Rasmus Højlund, who's been very poor since his return from injury. But the main reason why I've gone for Jackson is 2 double game weeks in a matter of game week 35 and 37. So it's a very good way of covering that Chelsea attack. Cole Palmer is definitely many steps ahead, and he's the one you want to go for sure. Then it's up to you if you go for that third Chelsea asset with Petrovic in goal or Nicholas Jackson up front. I think those are the main options. I think Gusto speaks for himself if he's fit, and Jackson is very risky, very frustrating. He might test your sanity at times, but I think he can deliver. And let's not forget, he did really well the last time he played Tottenham Hotspur, which forms part of that double in game week 35. Now, the next forward is another doubt because of his injury status, and that's Erling Haaland. If he is ruled out of game week 35, you can definitely make a case for going without him and spreading the funds even further, or perhaps introducing the likes of Saka or Salah in your midfield. And for those that don't want to get too bogged down in double game weeks, you don't have the bench boost for 37, that's perfectly reasonable, and you can go for 2 or 3 Arsenal assets still, maybe 1 or 2 Liverpool with Diogo Jota in the midfield or Mohamed Salah. I'm not completely against that, but this wildcard team is designed for the bench boost in 37, and I still have an Arsenal player in there because they have the best defence in the league, and it might be worth going for a few more single game week players as well. And I do recognise that you don't need to go for a full 50-man squad full of doublers. And the final forward is Isak. At this moment in time, he's by far the best forward in FPL based on current form, the fixtures, and I really expect him to do well in every single game coming up. And for 37, he's probably the best forward. With Erling Haaland, you've got the injury doubt, and his form hasn't been the greatest overall. I know he scored in recent Premier League games, but he definitely was better last season, and he has missed a lot of big chances. And this front three could be slightly risky, so to speak, with Haaland being an injury doubt, with Jackson being Jackson. And if you want to go for other forwards, definitely consider Rasmus Højlund for double game week 37. Apart from that, Solanke is still worth holding on to for some people. He has a good fixture in game week 35 against Brighton, and the best forward in the game is Ollie Watkins. Despite not having any doubles, he's still worth considering on the wild card. If I had extra budget, I'd probably go for him over Nicholas Jackson, I won't lie to you, but because I don't have the budget, and that mainly depends on Erling Haaland's fitness, that's what could be a determining factor in some key changes on this wildcard team. Not to mention, if Jackson gets a yellow card against Arsenal tonight, that could be another factor, and this wildcard squad is definitely subject to some changes, as I'll cover in the team selection video and podcast, and also during the deadline stream. Let's now head over to other websites like Drafthound and FPL.team to see what other assets we can consider on the wildcard in Double Gameweek 35. There is a link to Drafthound in the description below. I'd highly recommend you check it out, and more of you are signing up using my link and talking about how useful Drafthound is On the right hand side you can see my team before activating the wildcard, and on the left is the wildcard squad proposed by Drafthound, and Onana remains in there, but Verbruggen is their second goalkeeper. The back three also has a lot of changes, with Pedro Porro and Rico Lewis forming part of the wildcard alongside Fabian Schär. Palmer, Son, Johnson and Gordon complete the midfield, with Isak, Jackson and Haaland up front. That's an identical front three to what I showed you. And on the bench, we've got Kevin De Bruyne and two young defenders from Chelsea and Man United. I think Cambualo could be decent, but I don't really like those picks, to be honest. I think 13 of those are solid options, but I don't agree with the two defenders there. That could definitely be improved on. And I'm guessing they're also there to fund the likes of Kevin De Bruyne in this wildcard squad. But I'm now going to show you FPL Team and the starting 11 for the wildcard squad I talked about throughout this video, and I'll also talk about some alternatives in some positions and key changes that you could see in future videos and podcasts. This wouldn't be an easy choice, but I'm going for Vicario for the double game week and the saves potential against Arsenal and Chelsea. Onana is on the bench, but you can definitely change that to your preference. I'm going for a back three of Gusto, Dalot and Schär, a midfield five of Foden, Son, Bruno Fernandes, Gordon and Palmer, who's currently the captain. That could change if he's still a doubt for the Aston Villa game by the weekend, with Jackson and Isak up front. Haaland is on the bench, first on the bench due to the injury status, but we could see him start on Thursday against Brighton, and that could certainly make things complicated in terms of benching one of your attackers. Gvardiol is second and Gabriel last away to Tottenham. Some Spurs fans in the live chat recently were saying you should start Gabriel, as Spurs really struggle from set pieces, and that could be a shout, but I think Spurs have a great chance of scoring and ending Arsenal's consecutive run of 6 clean sheets away from home in the Premier League. Onana, of course, is on the bench, as I said, 78.2 expected points according to FPL Team, and only 0.1 million in the bank. In fact, in FPL on the website, I've got nothing left in the bank with my current wildcard team, and some of you might not be able to afford this, and that's why I'm going to keep on recommending more alternatives in each position, as I've done throughout this video and podcast. So in the goalkeeper position, I think David Raya is another great option. Ederson, of course, for those that have the extra budget. I think those are the two I'd mainly look at. Petrovic is another one who's even cheaper and could allow you to afford this 15-man squad. In terms of other defenders, maybe Van Hecke instead of Gusto if the Chelsea right back is ruled out of Game Week 35. You've also got a few others like Burn instead of Fabian Schär. And in the midfield, there is also some other things you can do, mainly going for a Brennan Johnson or a Maddison, potentially instead of Bruno Fernandes, and you can buy Bruno by the time you get to Game Week 37, but I would rather go for Bruno at home to Burnley compared to Johnson or Maddison with that double game week, but things could definitely change by the time we get to the Game Week 35 deadline. In the forward positions, I still like Watkins a lot, so if you have the extra money, definitely go for him over Jackson, and we could see Jackson suspended for Game Week 35 anyway. And I'd still consider the likes of Saka and Salah on your wildcard. Even Diogo Jota. Going for Liverpool attackers is certainly a good play. And going for two Arsenal defenders, whether it's Raya and goal with Gabriel or White, Saliba, take your pick from those four, and I think that could really work out for you. So I think those are the key changes, especially for those that aren't bench boosting in 37. Double up on the Arsenal defence, go for Watkins up front, also Saka and Salah in the midfield, and De Bruyne is a great differential for the last few gimmicks of the season. From Tottenham Hotspur, if you were to go for a third asset, it would be Brennan Johnson or Maddison in the midfield. And of course, you can go for Pedro Porro in the defensive line and replace Vicario with one of Raya, maybe Petrovic or Ederson. And in terms of Man City defenders, apart from Gvardiol, Ruben Dias could be a safer pick as well. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below about all of those issues or alternatives. And if we go ahead to Game Week 36 and also double Game Week 37, you will see how this team could line up. So Onana in goal in 36 against Crystal Palace away, Gvardiol, Gabriel and Schär as the back three, Foden, Fernandes, Gordon, Palmer and Son as the midfield five, with Haaland and Isak up front. Jackson, Gusto, Dalot and Vicario would all be on the bench, and you will have benching dilemmas and bench points in every single game week, but that's the way it goes, except for Game Week 37 actually, if you have the bench boost, and the expected points is 131.5 0.1. And as you can see, only one single game week option in Gabriel. You could replace him with Van Heck or another double game week defender and have a full 50-man squad if you wanted to. But as I mentioned, you can also go for more single game week options like Saka, Salah, Watkins, and this team would still look very strong for game week 37, but also for the other game weeks as well. And to conclude, game week 38, you've got a very solid base as well. And don't forget, you have 2 free transfers to use by Double Gameweek 37. If you use one and roll the second, you can have 2 transfers for Gameweek 38 and make some key changes. Maybe downgrade Haaland to Watkins, and that will give you enough funds to upgrade Bruno Fernandes to Salah, or maybe you go for Kevin De Bruyne as a differential. And even with just 1 free transfer, you can do Bruno Fernandes to Saka or Heung-min Son. It's completely up to you how you want to play the last few game weeks of the season. But by wildcarding in 35, you can build a great bench boost team on paper, at least for game week 37. You've got good fixtures for game week 35 and 36, and even for game week 38, where you've got 1, possibly 2 free transfers to bring in the likes of Salah and or Saka, maybe even Watkins, to really attack that final game week of the season. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to over 200 likes and let's keep on pushing towards 25,000 subscribers and beyond. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, FPL Challenge, Drafthound, as well as Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on those platforms. It costs nothing and really goes a long way to supporting the channel. I wish you all the best of luck for Double Gameweek 35 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.